I'm blank.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Fertility TV. I am Dr. Marc Sklar, the fertility expert, and I'm super excited today to be talking about essential oils. My guest today is Jodi Cohen of Vibrant Blue Oils. She is the go-to woman, at least my go-to woman for essential oils when I have questions, and so we've collaborated a little bit. And so I'm super excited to bring Jodi to all of you and answer all your essential oil questions today. So Jodi, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. And kudos to you. Marc is my go-to fertility doctor. He's brilliant.
Thank you. The place that I want to start, because I know that when I started learning about essential oils, I had tons of questions and actually often still do, because it's clearly not my specialty. But I do get questions from a lot of my patients about it, which is kind of what sparked my initial interest, right? Patients drive our learning curve a bit.
Absolutely. No, totally.
Yeah. And so I guess my first question is, what brought you to essential oils, and how did you come up with the name Vibrant Blue Oils?
Oh, those are great questions. So it was kind of, similar to clients bring things to your attention, your children and your own health issues bring things to your attention. Yep. So I went through, my own personal rock bottom. My husband had to be hospitalized. My kids were super little, and my adrenals, by the time I wasn't responsible for supporting him, were exhausted, and I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't answer the phone. It took every ounce of energy I had to get up in the morning, make my children breakfast, pack their lunches, drive them to school and drop them off. And then I would seriously come home and want to crawl into bed or watch mindless television. And it turns out I don't have good chemistry for pharmaceutical drugs. I was put on postpartum depression drugs after my second was born. And what I've learned since is that if your methylation pathways are blocked, if you're not detoxifying the medicine, they recirculate and can kind of make you psychotic. And that was my experience. I didn't know why at the time. I just knew that just made me worse. So I can't go there. And I was treading water with supplements and with diet. And a friend of mine, came by with a huge box of essential oils and said, "These are going to help you." I said, "Great. What do I do?"
Awesome.
And she just left. She said, "You're really smart and you're really intuitive. You will figure it out."
Figure it out on your own.
Yeah. Well, but lucky for me, because I couldn't get out of the couch, she left them next to me on the couch. And I thought, well, gosh, I know how to test people, how to kind of muscle test for adrenals. And I know that's what my issue is. So is there anything in this box that's going to help me? And I got an incredibly strong yes. And that was kind of the first spark of hope I'd felt in a couple weeks. And I thought, well, okay, yay, this would be great. What can I do? So I drilled down and found 5 oils, which was unusual. Normally I get like 1 or 2 supplements. And then I got a little stuck and thought, well, that's really weird. And then I had this idea, combine them. And so I had never done this before. I went in my kitchen and got a shot glass, which is how inexperienced I was, and just tested each bottle, how many drops of each, combined them, put them on my adrenals, which are on the low back. They sit on top of the kidney, which is the size of a fist. So I put the bottom part of my fist at the bottom part of my back and put the adrenal oil on and felt like myself. It was the first time I felt like within a few minutes. And the reason I could tell was I'm a runner. I'm a lifelong runner. I've run marathons. Every time in the past when I was upset about something, running always kind of pulled me out of it, or yoga. I was so despondent, I couldn't even run. Like the idea of going for a run felt like too much. And the first thought in my head was like, oh my gosh, I could go running. And I was like, wow, I'm back. Like, this is me, and it would wear off. But once I figured out that I could combine these oils to support different organ functions, I made some for sleep. I made some for my adrenals. I made one that I knew I was kind of in that sympathetic dominant state. So I played with different ones to drop me into the parasympathetic state. And when I felt better, all my friends had been trying to take me to lunch, and I didn't want to get out of my sweats basically. So I agreed, and it was a big lunch. 20 people showed up because I was finally feeling social. Yeah. And they all asked what I had done, and I told them, and many were in kind of the healing modalities. And so they asked for samples. I said, sure, and they started testing them on their clientele and noticing a profound difference, and said, you have to do something with this. And I thought, well, somebody must be doing this. So I went and looked at what people were doing. Not only was no one doing it, but the way they were putting out oil information was so overwhelming that honestly, if I had done research first, I wouldn't have gone there. I would have felt underqualified. And so I realized there's a huge opportunity to help people that there's a void that hasn't been filled. There are a lot of great qualified oil companies that have very high quality blends, or single oils, but most people don't necessarily know how to combine them to put different organ systems and regions of the brain back in balance. And that's what I'm doing differently. That's
what's unique.
Yes, and it's this combination. Like, for example, our most popular blend is called our parasympathetic blend, and it's used to stimulate the vagal response. You put it right behind the earlobe on the mastoid bone. The vagus nerve is the on-off switch between the rest and digest parasympathetic state, where you regenerate and heal, and the sympathetic fight or flight state. It starts kind of at the back of the head and runs along the earlobes and then through every organ of digestion. It's most accessible here. The combination is clove oil, which is highly, highly stimulatory and has this really healing property called eugenol in it. And then lime, which has the smallest molecules. So it's not genetically modifying them, but combining them, you get this highly stimulatory oil that is incredibly accessible through the skin. So it allows you to stimulate that response.
Awesome.
And the name, the bottles that they gave me when they showed up in the big box, they were blue. And I've always loved blue bottles. When I was a kid, my mom would love to go to antique stores, and her strategy for buying more time was to task my sister and I with collecting something. So my sister picked thimbles and I picked blue bottles. So I have this crazy collection my whole life from when I was very little of blue bottles that they came to college with me, my first apartment. I love it. I love the color. It makes me really happy. So I thought it was kind of, a fortunate coincidence that these powerful healing remedies came in blue bottles. And there is something about the energy of the blue bottle that kind of shields out some of the light and frequencies that you don't want, but really enhances the good. So that's why I named it. Yeah.
Clearly you like blue. I see blue all around you.
It is. It's by far my favorite color, and especially that cobalt shade just makes me so happy.
That's great. You should send out a picture of all your collection of blue bottles so everyone can see it.
I should. I know it's we were talking earlier about how I have these nerdy aspects. I love research. I love collecting blue bottles. Like, it's the quirky side of me, but I should.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
Okay, absolutely.
Nice. So that's great. So, I'm sure there's a lot of women who are watching who are never heard of essential oils, maybe just starting to hear about them, know about them, but don't know why they work.
Yes.
So can you explain a little bit about the background of the details of essential oils, why they're potent, how they work, and how we can use them?
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting. Pharmaceutical drugs are relatively new in the history of mankind. For example, 50% of all the pharmaceutical drugs came from plants. When the Pilgrims first landed on the United States, America, the Native Americans were showing them a lot of like white willow bark, that the properties are used in aspirin. There are a lot of plant roots for pharmaceutical drugs, and because you can't patent something that's found in nature, so they've modified it a little bit, but the natural alternative works just as well. Like valerian is the base for Valium, and it's very relaxing and sedative. So we know, and also if you think about our food, our diets, we eat plants. We eat the ethically raised animals that feed on these plants. They're very intertwined with our systems, and it's not surprising that they can put us in balance in different ways. So oils are the highly concentrated essence of this plant. Like, you think about farm to table, like if you've ever been to a great farmer's market, or we used to live in New York and drive out to the Hamptons, and the tomatoes that they sell on the side of the road, they taste like sunshine. It's amazing. There's something about just, picking a fruit or picking a vegetable and eating it right then and there. It has all of this vitality. And oils are kind of captured, they're picked, and then they're immediately distilled into the oil. So you kind of capture that right off the vine health quality and essence. And then we know that oils are interesting. Everyone talks about them being energy medicine, and they are, but they also, the plant aspect of them works. They're a little bit of hybrids. Like ginger, we know, have ginger tea and it kind of calms your stomach. Ginger oil calms your stomach. There are a lot of similarities between the oils and the actual herb, but the oils are more concentrated. Like 1 drop of peppermint oil is the equivalent of 75 cups of peppermint tea.
Wow.
So they're right, exactly. And the other nice thing, I was studying functional neurology, and my favorite takeaway was that if the front door is closed, there's always a back door. Like there are always 2 ways to access and heal the brain. And I think the same is true in the body. Like so many of the problems that we see are from impaired digestion. It's a combination of toxicity, systemic inflammation, stress. For whatever reason, we have a lot of digestive dysfunction. And sometimes it's very obvious. You feel physical pain or you have constipation. Sometimes it's less so. It's like the iceberg. It's under the surface, but it's still there. And so the digestive channel is the primary way to get our nutrients into our body and heal us. But if it's impeded, or in my case, my liver wasn't detoxifying, so things were recycling and not leaving, you need to look for the back door. And the back doors are kind of the transdermal channel. So we know like nicotine patches, hormone creams. The skin is highly permeable, and we can access the body very efficiently through the skin. Also, the olfactory system, it's interesting. The limbic part of the brain is kind of the primitive brain where emotions are stored. The olfactory bulb is part of the limbic system. So when you smell something, it goes directly into that limbic area of the brain, the amygdala, that kind of controls our emotions and responses. Stimulates or sedates, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So
awesome.
they're great for they're great for getting into the system, especially when it's challenging to get other nutrients into the body.
And that's why they work for those individuals who are a little bit more sensitive, right?
Yes,
I've got plenty of patients like that who you can't really put them on a ton of stuff, and so you've got to try other methods.
Exactly. Well, especially women. I mean, women over 30, a lot of times our hormones are not necessarily as balanced as we want them to be, just because our adrenals have been exhausted from stress, or maybe our gallbladder and liver are tired from detoxifying. And so, yeah, you really need something gentle. Less is more in those cases.
Awesome. And so my go-to when I think of essential oils, kind of like how you mentioned, was that you put them on topically or you smell them, right?
Correct.
We've got the diffusers, or you can just smell the bottle.
Correct.
What are the different ways that you can kind of take in oils?
Oh, there's so many. And, you can get so complicated, right? You can have the technique where you put it on your hands and smell it, or put some in water and put a towel over your head. I think that, I have 2 little kids, and I'm busy, so I try not to make it too complicated. You can just open the bottle and smell it. And what's actually quite interesting is that, how you're hungry, you're starving maybe, and then you eat and you're full and you don't need any more. With oil, if you put it, I usually put it a couple inches from my nose, but if you smell between 3 to 7 times, at a certain point, you won't be able to smell it anymore. It's the same thing. It's kind of done its job, and you don't need it.
Yeah.
So, so I don't make it too complicated. I do advise when people get started to dilute it with another oil. I like coconut oil. You can use olive oil, jojoba oil, almond oil, whatever makes sense to you. But and I don't get intensely complicated. I maybe put like a tablespoon of coconut oil in my hand and put like a drop of the oil on and just dilute it that way, just because, less dishes, but you can do
I get that one.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Yeah, because I see all these sort of complicated things of dosing and, take a capsule of it or whatever. It seems a little bit overdone.
You can make anything as complicated as you want, right?
Yeah.
And, with our oils, a lot of people that find us have been to a lot of doctors and spent a lot of money on a lot of things, and they really don't want to do it wrong. And so I give very, very clear, like, you can put it exactly here directions, because for people that want that, it feels very
helpful.
Yeah, exactly. And then there are other people who are completely intuitive and say, oh gosh, I think I want to put it on my wrist or over my heart, and it works for them. And I'm like, you know what, trust yourself. So it kind of depends on your comfort level.
Great. Yeah. I mean, I like to keep things simple for myself.
Yeah.
So I like that. Um, and if someone wanted to start, like they were just wanting to say, hey, I want to play a little bit with some
Yeah.
essential oils. And I
Yeah.
know from our conversations and certainly the way you use them and the way I would probably recommend using them, a lot of it depends on the individual and what they're dealing with and so forth. But is there
Yes.
like one or two oils on that, through Vibrant Blue Oils that you would say, you know what, I think everyone can take these. This is a good place to start and feel
Yes.
comfortable and play with.
The parasympathetic oil, absolutely, because it's like a light switch. You leave the room, you turn off the lights, you come back in. You need to be in that sympathetic state sometimes to get
Hmm.
things done. If you're driving in traffic and someone veers in your lane, you better be in sympathetic. Your responses better be, whip sharp. But
Sure.
before you eat, basically, if you just apply a drop right behind the earlobe, if you feel behind your earlobe on that bone, that's the mastoid bone. And
Yeah.
it's great for kids too. Like I think about all the time, energy, and money I spent like buying nutrient dense whole food, cooking it from scratch, and then we'd like eat it in a rush so we could make the soccer practice. No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
If you just drop a teeny bit on your kids, even if you can only eat in like 15 minutes, make it a relaxing 15 minutes. Actually, I have a great story about that. My kids' school had 15 minutes for lunch because they had to squeeze in all this academic stuff. And so I said to the principal, if it's only 15 minutes, make it relaxing. So they started limiting conversation, playing relaxing music. And she told me, she was like, it's shocking. The teachers are saying the behavior after lunch is so much better and the test scores are better. So there really
Oh,
is
I do
something,
not doubt that at all.
yeah, to
Yeah.
eating in that parasympathetic state. So if you can only do one thing, the oil is great. If you're really good at kind of grounding yourself and breathing and smelling your food, just my number one advice is it's not just what you eat, it's how you eat it. So if you can eat
Yeah.
in that parasympathetic state, it's like, I live in Seattle where traffic is omnipresent often because the freeway has only one of the 4 lanes open. And guess what? There's traffic shock. But when they open up all the lanes, it flows freely. So think about your digestive system the same way. If you're not eating in that relaxed state, you're not able to digest, absorb, and assimilate your nutrients as well as if you're in the parasympathetic state.
Absolutely. I love it.
Yeah.
So for everyone watching, Jodi and I have talked about putting together a kit for fertility patients, for all of you who want a
Yes.
little something extra that you can do at home, um, that can support your fertility, but also support your overall health. And the way we looked at it, and I know for some of you watching, this might be a little bit foreign to think of, but your fertility is much more than your reproductive organs. It goes beyond just your ovaries and uterus, your fallopian tubes, the sperm count and so forth. And so, and when I work with patients, they're sometimes surprised when I start focusing on their digestive system or their adrenal glands or whatever it is that we're focusing on, right? So when we looked at creating a supportive kit for fertility, we did take into account kind of the greater whole of the body and all its needs. So Jodi, can you talk a little bit about the different oils in the kit for everybody here?
I would be honored. So the parasympathetic is the most important. And it's a little bit like if you think about painting your house, you need to put that first layer on. It just kind of sets everything else up for success. The other things that often go on, as you know, Mark, in hormonal imbalance is it's often the adrenals are just working too hard.
Yeah.
They're either kicking out way too much cortisol or they've been doing that for a long time and they collapse. It's called adrenal fatigue, which is what I experienced a very extreme case of. And so what's interesting about balancing the adrenals, you can do it obviously with food and supplements, but you use different supplements to stimulate the adrenals and different supplements to sedate them.
Right.
And for anyone who's ever had a cortisol test, your cortisol levels, it's not like you're flat all day or spiked all day. You go up and as you're supposed to. They're supposed to be high in the morning and low at night so you can fall asleep. This oil, what's great about plants and oils is that they just put the body back in balance. It's again like opening up all the lanes of the freeway so traffic can flow. It's not artificially stimulating, artificially sedating. So it's a great tool for helping you regain balance. And then the other oils that we talked about are really helpful. What happens often with hormonal imbalances is that when your detoxification is impeded, for example, bile should kind of flow, and when it flows out of the body, the toxins like excess estrogen can flow out with it. If it's more viscous, you know, like molasses, it doesn't flow as quickly, and so those hormones and toxins get recycled, and it's a little bit like it's this vicious cycle where, you know, your hormones are slightly imbalanced and it just keeps tipping the scale. So you really want to make sure that your gallbladder, your bile is flowing freely. So we have a terrific oil for that. And it's interesting. It's actually the one I tend to use the most for headaches and headache remedies. You know, the
it's gallbladder. A very Chinese medicine way of thinking.
It's shocking, but it works. I mean, even my most like, I don't really believe in what you're doing, but can I have that oil for the headache? You're like, it's funny. Yeah. So that's one of them. And then the liver blend is one of them. So we're trying to help you balance the stress hormones and detoxify excess hormones.
Yeah. So the way, you know, for all of you listening, the way we think of this is if we can clear out all the other areas, your body and your reproductive function should really take care of itself. And oftentimes, unless you have a true reproductive issue, blockage or something like that, you know, there's usually other things going on. Adrenal is very common. That stress component, the parasympathetic, super common. So those two pieces, you know, really made a lot of sense when Jodi and I were talking. And then supporting detoxification so that you're able to get rid of all those extra toxins and hormones that you don't need. Anyone who's took part in my fertility reset detox program knows that, right? Because that's a lot of what we talked about. And then obviously supporting the liver. So I love this kit. I think it's really going to be super supportive for all of you watching, and we'll have a link as part of this video and also in our blog post that goes with this video that will take you straight to the kit so that you guys can just click on that and read all about it. And certainly if you've got questions about any of these, send them my way or Jodi's, and we'll be happy to answer them as well.
Oh, there's one other thing I want to add. So what's interesting about the sympathetic parasympathetic state, the sympathetic state is a survival state. And so all functions that are not critical to survival, including reproduction, shut down.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, it's something I talk about often when I talk about stress and adrenal function and the sympathetic and the nervous system. You know, it's like these are things that we take for granted,
right?
But certainly because just exactly like you said, if it's not something that is essential for living and surviving, those are the first to go when our body's dealing with trauma or stress or whatever it might be. So yeah,
so absolutely. It might be interesting. Even, I mean, I have millions of friends who struggle with fertility, and we're kind of counting the clock. But before you have sex with your husband when you're fertile, try using the parasympathetic blend for both of you.
It's a great idea. Yeah. But that actually spawns another question for me.
Okay.
So let's just say someone gets this kit in the mail. They've got all four.
Right.
Is there a certain way we should have them use them, or you would guide them to use them? I mean, I like what you just said about you know, before sex, which would be great.
Yes.
But just in general, they get all four, and then what, you know, how do they use them?
No, that's a terrific question. And, you know, it's the remedy is part of the puzzle, but then it's also kind of getting the therapeutic dosage in the body. So the parasympathetic kind of depends on how stressed you are. At a minimum, I would say 3 times a day, ideally before meals. Okay. At a maximum, it could be as much as 6 times a day. Like when I was going through really tough periods, I would carry it in my car, in my purse, and apply it all the time. The adrenal, same thing. If you're really exhausted, you know, I use it every morning before I exercise, and then kind of as needed through the day. But if your adrenals are really out of balance, I would say 3 times a day also. Maybe ending, it can be a little bit like coffee, so maybe not after 5 o'clock.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and then the liver and the gallbladder oil, definitely. What I say is if you can't remember, just leave it by your toothbrush and do it when you brush your teeth. So first thing in the morning and right before bed. That's good. You know, we detoxify when you're sleeping. So it's really important if you can't remember anything, before bed. You can even keep it on your nightside table and just do it when you wake up in the morning and before bed.
Awesome. And so they use the parasympathetic, you know, behind their ear on the bone, and then we'd put the adrenal on their adrenals.
Correct. Or if you're prone to anxiety attacks, you can smell it and it will help calm.
great.
the anxiety.
Great, great, great. And then the liver detox, put over your liver, or you can also smell it, right?
Right. Yeah, and over your gallbladder. And the
yeah.
gallbladder one's great for headaches too.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, this was great. For everyone watching, please post your comments. If you've got questions about it, about anything we've discussed, please post your comments here. I will be checking back frequently to answer those questions, although sometimes it's more frequent than others. But if you also have questions for Jodi, you can just touch base with Jodi directly through her website, vibrantblueoils.com. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up or give us a thumbs up. If you got questions, leave comments. If you want to know about future videos that are coming out and other interviews that I'm doing, then subscribe to the Fertility TV YouTube channel and you'll get notification. And thank you again, Jodi, for being with us and sharing your knowledge. I love it. Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bye. Thank you.
All right, everyone. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Are you looking for a fertility coach? Are you looking for someone to guide you with your personal needs one-on-one? Well, that can be me. If you want more information on that, check it out right here.